What's up guys? For today's video, we're back out here working on the trailer. The main thing I'm trying to get done today is to get these bunk boards stripped, recarpeted, and reinstalled back to the trailer. Overall, the process isn't too bad. I've done it a couple times at this point, so I'm just gonna walk you through how I strip, recarpet, and reinstall the bunk boards. All right, so the worst part of redoing bunk boards has to be removing the old carpet. This stuff is usually really gnarly and held on by a whole bunch of rusted staples. Whenever you're redoing bunk boards, you really have to use stainless steel staples, or else this is what happens. They literally just disintegrate. I'm probably gonna pull the biggest ones and then just use a hammer and tap down any rusted ones that are sticking up. I would definitely recommend some kind of rubberized gloves for this, unless you're up to date on your tetanus shot. This is interesting carpet. Looks like it has a rubber backing on it. I don't know if this was made specifically for this or just something that they chose, but the carpet that I use does not have a rubber backing like that. All right, so while we got this one on the stands here, let's go ahead and grab these staples off. And one tool I highly recommend if you're gonna be dealing with rusted metal, especially with trailers and stuff, is a magnet sweep. I left all the rusted staples on the board here. I can just come through. And it picks them all up for me. Also, any that happen to fall on the ground, gets them too. So with that done, this board is now prepped for new carpet. I'm gonna go ahead and work on the other one. All right, and with that, the last board has been stripped down. It's time to get the new carpet ready. Previously, when I've attached carpet to wood, for example, when I'm doing floors or some of the custom stuff I've made for this boat here, I'd always use like a spray-on carpet glue. I find that works really well. But for bunk boards, that's really not something you wanna do because this is more of a maintenance item. And you're probably gonna be replacing this at some point in the future. So don't make future you deal with pulling carpet up that's been glued down. As long as you're using the right staples, your carpet should last quite a while. All right, we've now moved over to the workbench, and with that, we're gonna start getting ready for carpeting. I'm fortunate enough right now to have a bunch of extra scrap carpet laying around. I just use indoor-outdoor carpet from a hardware store. It's worked really well, it holds up really well, getting dunked in the water a bunch, and it's really affordable. These two rolls I have sitting here were from a previous project. I had restored a trailer to work for a little pond prowler, and I was gonna carpet the boards. So I cut 2 strips before I started, and then I decided not to. And then I have some just random scrap here that I'm hoping should be enough to cover the side bunk boards. All the tools we're gonna be using today are laid out in front of me here. We're gonna be using a stronger staple gun. This is not the same kind of staple gun that works for the really thin staples. This is a heavy duty staple gun. This works much better for getting through carpet. The staples we're gonna be using are 1/2-inch stainless steel. I always look for the T50 compatible ones because that works with the Stanley stapler that I use. I'll have links to the stapler and the compatible staples in the description for you guys to find them yourself. In addition to that, you just want a pair of scissors to cut your bulk down. And then you're gonna want a good razor blade to trim up the carpet once you got it all stapled down. All right, so first things first, let's clean off the work table, get our one board on here, get a piece of carpet measured out and see if it fits. All right, so let's see if this carpet is cut to the right size, which would be excellent because then I'll have a lot of carpet to work with here. All right, so the first thing I'm gonna do is make sure that the wood is centered on the carpet. This is also not an evenly cut piece of carpet, so we're just gonna do our best. We're gonna wrap the carpet over, and we're gonna staple it right in the middle. Then we're gonna move it down. We're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna keep this tight, and then we're gonna staple it right in the middle. And then we're gonna come through and do the same thing down this side. All right, so now that we have the one side of the carpet stapled, we're gonna unroll it, pull it really tight, and then wrap it over. And by doing that, you're gonna make sure that your carpet is completely flat on the wood on the reverse side. All right, so we're gonna wrap it over, pull the wood towards you, give it a good staple. And that's making a nice, good side over here. Something I would recommend is marking your drill holes for where you're gonna reinstall the mounting brackets. You could use a permanent marker and just write like a line right here where the holes are on your carpet. But because I'm gonna be readjusting where this goes and I'm gonna be drilling new holes, I'm not worrying about that myself. Okay, so let's see how the underside looks. That's good, nice and flat on the wood. No issues with that. So now we just gonna need to do our end caps. The ends are pretty simple. In this one, I have way too much. So I'm gonna start by cutting off the majority of that. And then we're gonna take the sides and push that in so it's folded over. I'm gonna put a staple right in the center. I'm gonna trim this up a little bit further now, and with that side trimmed, we can just fold that over. All right, with a couple more staples to clean it up, this end cap is done. This is now complete. We are good to start reinstalling all of our bunk boards back onto the trailer. I'm gonna go ahead and get set up with all of my brackets and hardware, make sure we have everything we need. I think we had a couple of rusted lag bolts, so we might need to go get some new hardware. But at that point, I'm gonna start figuring out where everything needs to go. All right, so I had tried to clean up some of the old hardware that I had taken off the trailer. I sprayed it down with some penetrating oil and I brushed it with a stainless steel wire brush just to see if I could clean it up enough to use it again. Some of them were okay, most of them were a little too rusted. A lot of them were starting to narrow at the neck, so I just wasn't comfortable with having the entire trailer and boat be dependent on these rusty bolts. So I just went ahead and ran to the hardware store. I got some smaller lag bolts for the side attachments that will do the side bunk boards. And then I got some longer bolts that were the same size as the previous ones that'll do the bottom bunk boards. So the first thing we need to do is get these brackets reinstalled back into the trailer. For the bracket, it's a U bracket that comes in from the front, and then the actual mounting bracket sits on top. This was mounted at its lowest position, which was perfectly fine as far as the height of the boat on the trailer. So we're gonna keep that. As far as where to space it in here, you just wanna go dead center. On this side, we get a washer first. And then we're gonna use our nut. Do the same thing for the bottom. So I'm just gonna leave this kind of loosely tightened for now to make sure we have everything in the right spot. We'll work on these over here. And then a washer and a nut. Here's just a general tip. Anytime you're using power tools to tighten down a nut, you wanna make sure that you're either greasing your threads or you're going really slow. Because if you zip it on too quick, you will actually just jam it up to the point of it's unrecoverable. So I've already sprayed penetrating oil on all of the bolts and threads here just in case, but I'm also not gonna tighten it up too fast either. All right, these front two mounts are installed. Let's go ahead and do the backs, and then we can work on getting the mounting tabs back installed to the bunk boards. All right, so with those two on, we now have the bunk board mounts in place. Now I need to attach the bunk board mounting tabs to the bunk boards. I'm gonna be drilling out fresh holes for these mounting tabs. That way I know that they're good. When you're pulling out rusted screws, it's because there's been water sitting in the holes. So there's a good chance that the holes themselves aren't as good to work with. So what I'm gonna do is lay the bunk boards on top of their mounts, come from under and mark it with a Sharpie. That way I'll know exactly where to pre-drill and where to install the lag bolts. So now, like I said, we can just lay this right on top. We can get an idea on where we want this to sit. The main thing is we're gonna want it even and off the back to allow room for the boat to be fully on the trailer while still supporting the transom. All right, now just to be sure, I'm gonna do a measurement, 5.5 from that cross brace And this one is about 5.5. So this is pretty perfect where it is. Let's get these bunk boards back on the bench with the mounting brackets and get everything installed. All right, so I have this generally marked up for me here. I'm gonna center it on the wood, and then we need to drill 2 pilot holes. If you just run lag bolts right into the wood, there's a good chance it can split. We want to avoid that. So we'll start with the first. And the next. I already have my lag bolts ready to go. And we're just gonna run them right in place. All right, and so with that, let's just go ahead and do the next one on this side. All right, that looks pretty perfect. Okay, so I just went and measured the distance between the 2 brackets on the trailer, and it's exactly 65 inches. So we just need to make sure that from one end to the other, it is 65 inches where this tab lines up. So we are pretty much on line here. I think that's a little bit more accurate than the lines that I drew. All right, with all the tabs in place, let's go see how it fits on the trailer now. Okay, pretty good. Let's go ahead and get them bolted up, see how it looks. All right, well, that worked absolutely perfect. It mounted up exactly as it should. I think it's in a good position, and once we get the boat on the trailer, we can really fine tune everything to make sure it looks right. All right, so last but not least in getting these bunks recarpeted is getting the side bunk boards reinstalled. So to get these side guides installed, it's actually super simple. The risers here have pre-drilled holes. What I'm gonna be doing is setting this up in place. Then I'm gonna clamp it to the guide here. I'm gonna drill new holes, and then we're just gonna run some lag bolts into the side. Okay, so now this is all set up, let's drill our 2 mounting holes here. You may or may not hear the absolute windstorm happening right now, but hopefully you don't. Okay, let's get these lag bolts in. All right, and with that side on, we're gonna do the same thing to the other side. All right, well, that looks good. It's really nice and solid. We got 2 lag bolts on each side. I'm gonna go ahead and bolt on the other side. All right, and with that last board on, we have all the carpeted bunks reinstalled onto the trailer.